2.
Show. This is actually a little bit different than the MiamiHal real estate show because Javier Gonzalez is a regular guest. So we've decided that we are going to do a sub show called the Hal and Hav Show.
Hal and Hav Show.
And you know what? Rather than me asking all the questions, some weeks you're going to be asking questions. And we're going to test that out today.
Absolutely. I'm going to be picking your brains on all of the interesting things about real estate.
And I'll tell you, with your personality, you're probably going to be doing better than I am. It'll be the Hav and Hal show before we know.
Never. H before J. You're okay.
Okay. So once again, we'd love you to be interactive with us. When you get a chance, if you have a question or a comment, pop it into Facebook, Twitter, and we will, of course, try to get that involved in the show itself. And even if it's on demand, go ahead and ask those questions. We'll go back in and try to address them as we can.
And try to figure them out.
So I don't know if you can tell. I'm a little
disheveled.
disheveled.
A little frazzled.
And you know what? We're going to talk about how each of us got started in real estate.
Yep, absolutely.
And I'm going to tie it into what happened to me today.
Did you? All right.
Yeah.
Well, you lead the way.
All right.
Go ahead. How'd you start?
How'd
you get here? How'd you
Okay.
get into this fabulous business that we call real estate?
It is totally by chance, and then a little bit by me deciding that I wanted to take control of a business that I could really thrive in and help people with.
Cool.
So before real estate, I was in primarily New York City. I did behind the scenes in television at the ABC television station in New York. Yep, Big Apple. And then after I was with the local New York station, which was the #1 station in the country, I was hired into the ABC television network itself, where I did a lot of internal projects, but really got exposed to television, which is one of the reasons why you're watching this today.
We're doing very well with it.
Not only do I have the opportunity to talk to an audience through Miami community newspapers, which I'm very grateful for, but I help them build the set that you and I are broadcasting from right now.
Very well done.
So after that, I was also involved with a technology company that interacted a lot with the broadcasters and movie houses in the country. And then my wife at the time said to me, I'm really tired of New York and I want to go home. Home was Miami.
I think my wife would have killed you if she would have said that.
So after some, we'll call it discussion, I acquiesced and came down to Miami and essentially gave up the technology and television stuff that I had been doing. And through a somewhat long and winding road, I decided that once I was here, my family situation was satisfied.
Right.
And it was time for me to figure out a business that rather than being successful for somebody else, I could be successful for myself and the people that worked with me. And I chose real estate.
Very nice.
A little bit of that was when I was growing up, my parents had various jobs that moved us around the Northeast. We didn't move across the country, but we moved a total of 11 times before I graduated college.
Wow.
And so I had seen, sometimes much, much younger, where I really didn't understand it, from ages, actually since I was born through college, I had seen real estate agents work with my parents. And some of them were very good, and some of them were not so good. And so I said, I think I can do this. And that's kind of the short story about how real estate became part of my life. And I've now been doing it for almost 15 years.
Congratulations.
And
a lot of people do.
As I'm sure you will talk about in just a moment, there's a lot of stripes on my shoulders that I've earned badges along the way. And one of the badges is today. So that was my long-awaited word to tell you why I look so awful today.
You look fab.
Okay. So had to do a lot of things in a row today. Was down at the board in Coral Gables to exchange what's called a Superbox. For those of you that don't know, a Superbox is an electronic box that allows key access for agents.
Used one this morning.
Good. And it's better than the traditional dial in a combination or press a couple of buttons,
for sure,
because these boxes track the agents and the times where they went in and out of those boxes.
Yeah, sure did.
So a few years back, it became prevalent where people were taking keys out of boxes and not returning them, providing access to potential clients to these standard boxes. So the board said, that's enough of that. The new standard is for us to use these boxes where we can all track each other and keep each other honest.
Yep.
So I took a box and put it on one of my listings. It had 90% battery. These are all battery operated devices that communicate through Bluetooth and other means. And I put it on my listing and I said, I'm compliant, just like I always am. And then after about 20 days, when the box needed to come off, I went to go, actually the buyer of the property and their agent went to go take a walkthrough, and they couldn't get into the box. And I said to myself, oh, it's got to be somebody just not knowing how to use the boxes, because that's what it usually is. So, of course, I went over there to be the champion and open the box up, and the box was dead. And so one of the things I did,
get them off once they're dead.
No, they're all, and once the battery's dead, there's nothing to do. So a lot of coordination, which, you know, again, clients don't pay attention to all the stuff that we do underneath. And so the answer I got from the board was, by the way, the board is the one that implemented the boxes, but there's a company behind Supra, company's called Supra. Talked to both of them, and their answer was, by the way, you're not getting your keys back.
Nice.
Thank you. Can't get in there.
Thank you.
And you'll need to remove the box somehow. Either take the door handle, which it wasn't on, it was on a water spigot.
Nice.
Or get a crowbar or something to remove the box. So I don't typically carry around a bunch of bolt cutters. No. So I had to hire somebody to do that. And then the bolt cutters at least extracted the box, and I went to the board, and nobody's at the board anymore. So this is all a self-serve.
Oh, yeah.
You drop the crappy box that no longer works into this big black bin. I'm hoping that they will retrieve it.
Right.
And then they've got a series of brand new ones to the front door of the place, which is locked shut. And they told me how to get a new box off there. So that was step one. I was on time. Good. Then I had to go downtown to Brickell area, and I'm exchanging a new tenant is in my landlord's apartment, and we meet there. And, you know, leases, again, you'll have an opportunity to talk, I promise.
We'll talk about them. We said this was the Hal and Haas show, so Hal's in
There's
control
half
right
for
now.
you, I promise. Went down there, met the other agent that was representing the tenant, and the tenant was there as well. And almost always, when you have a brand new tenant into a place, there's a discussion at the time that the keys are exchanged because, you know, we saw the place and it's lovely, and here's your rent money, but there's a hole there, and this is scuffed, and this, it's like, it's never going to be brand new. And some agents can work very well with each other. And I'm not saying this agent didn't work well with me, but nitpicky. Yeah. And the client's sitting there going, "This is all right," and the agent's going, "No, it's not." So we had a little discussion there, and that delayed me longer than I expected. But we did the key exchange, which worked out well. And then I had to literally walk across Brickell to show a unit to somebody that's looking to purchase at 500 Brickell, which is a lovely building.
Nice building.
And that agent was a little bit late, so that made me a little bit later. So we started the show at 2:10. I'm really sorry, folks. We started the show at 2:10.
And I was in the wrong studio. It's been
Two
successful.
studios here. That's how successful Miami Community Newspapers is
This
now.
has been a very successful
But the reason why I did all of this, besides the fact you asking me how I got started in this business, is to show that you have to love what you're doing, because all this stuff that I did today had nothing to do with what my customers and clients see. Yeah. It's just what we have to do. And, you know, right now in particular, everybody says, "Oh, the market's great, so all you real estate agents, you're making money hand over fist." And it's not the case. There's a lot of work. And last night, I think I finished at about 10 o'clock at night. And the night before, I was getting calls at 11 o'clock at night. So stuff happens.
Yes,
right?
it does. Yes, it
Now,
does.
I know you're going to tell me, because I'm going to start asking you how you got started, that you don't take calls that late.
No,
because you're a lot smarter than I am.
No, my phone says after 7 o'clock, we don't take calls.
Listen, Hav is awesome. He's always attentive to who he's working with, but he's smart, unlike me. Your phone, when you call it, says that if you're calling after 7 p.m., your phone call will be returned the next day. And you know what? I need to adopt that. But there's hardened certain clients, and I let them sneak through, and I probably should.
You always have clients that will sneak through, but I think it's something that you have to set that parameter early on. Because if not, it can be an all day. It can be an all day, all night type of business. And it is. I mean, you're online all the time.
So
it's very difficult.
If I look a little disheveled, now you know a little bit bothered.
You look fabulous.
But more importantly, personalities of agents always are important when we end up working with clients.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I have my personality. I apologize to everybody out there for it.
Ahead of time.
And you have a very different personality, which may work with a whole different type of buyer or seller. Yeah. So, Jav, you are here in shorts. Okay. You don't have to stand up. Don't. No.
I am. There's shorts down here.
And he's got tennis shoes on.
I got tennies. I didn't bring my flip flops. I got tennies on.
And he has this inside the real estate world. He's known as the guy that wears sandals everywhere, and it's because of your personality and your relaxed, your relaxed style. But it does not mean by any stretch that you're relaxed in how you do your business. No. In fact, you've got a great rep.
Thank you.
So how did you get your rep? How did you start in this crazy business?
Mine isn't as glamorous or exciting as yours. Let me tell you that for sure. I can tell you that already. I started in retail. I started in retail. I was the youngest general manager for Jordan Marsh back in the days, late 70s. And then from there, I thought that I was going to become the next celebrity chef. And I had the opportunity with my father-in-law after I got married in '84 that I would open a bakery and a retail bakery at best, and a retail in Hialeah during the Marielito years, which was very, very exciting. So this was like the early 80s. Well, actually, no, mid 80s, about 86, 87. And I was going to turn my little Hialeah bakery into the next Andalusia. Back in the days, I was like the super high end. And when I went there the first time, everybody that was baking had guns. They were armed. Jeez. And I thought to myself, I don't know.
I know what's going on in Miami besides the baking.
Oh, no, I have a better story. I have a better story. We'll get to that story. But the best part was I'm thinking to myself, this may not end the way that I thought it was going to end. So in the mid 90s, what I did, early 90s, I actually turned it into a wholesale bakery. Okay. And we ended up making Cuban pastries and Cuban stuff for most of the major supermarkets. For Publix, for Winn-Dixie, Albertsons, Cisco's, all of that.
Under their name or yours?
No, we were private label.
Oh, okay.
We private label. The company actually still exists. So the company's still out there. It actually was some of my original employees that were on there. And so we did that for quite some time. And in the 2000, the business changed and I lost Publix, which was one of my main businesses. And then I had already gotten, I was starting to look for a property because my father-in-law had passed away. So my inheritance was my mother-in-law. So as part of the inheritance, I had to we were looking for a place with a cottage. So we currently lived in Coconut Grove. And we said, okay, let's find and see if we can find a place from the cottage in the Grove. So we started looking around, and this is a true story. Started looking around, we found a place on Bayview Road. And it had a little cottage in the back. It was a little old Spanish, very pretty style. And the agent was working with me, and it was an agent with the same in-house. It was Grove Properties. And we were in-house, and the agent, was showing around. And she said this. She said, the property is CBS construction. It's concrete construction. I said, no, it's not. It's a frame construction. And she goes, oh, no. We have a report from a very reputable company that says it's concrete. CBS. I'm thinking, no, it's not. And I said, come down here. And I took her into the crawl space. I showed her that was a frame house. For those of you who want to learn how a frame house and a concrete house is going to be,
do that.
So we're going to do it real simple. So a frame house, if you're on an exterior wall, like on your door frame, and the wall is smaller than your hand, it's a frame house. If the wall is bigger than your hand, chances are it's a concrete block house. Why? Wood frame studs are 4 inches. Concrete blocks are 8 inches. There's your simplest way of figuring it.
What if you have a really big hand?
Then it's always going to be, you'll remember, if it's smaller than your hand,
right.
It's smaller. I don't want to get into any kind of Donald Trump conversations, but if it's smaller than your hand, it's going to be a wood frame.
This is why we love you. Huh?
That's right. Thanks. So I got in there, and I brought the agent, and I said, it's a frame house. And she looked at me, and she said these words, and I quote, why don't you get into real estate? You know more than 90% of the people out there. And something went off in my head and said, ding. And my father-in-law had always been after me.
That's great.
To do it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go get my license. And I got my license. And I went into that same office. And I said, I have 3 questions. Do I have to wear pants? And they said, no.
You have to wear some sort of pants.
Right, exactly. Do I have to come to office meetings? They said, no. And I said, and can I sit here on floor, which no one wanted to do? And they said, oh, absolutely.
They said, yes.
Absolutely. And I said,
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah.
And from there, I became the top agent for the first year. And after that, it was just rolling forward.
Wow.
And I sold my business in 2005.
So this is really interesting because as many people know, real estate agents aren't usually born out of college as real estate agents.
Unless you're family.
They are teachers.
Yep.
They are, service workers that say, I've had enough of this.
Mm-hmm.
In your case, you were in retail, which I think probably, and that's the part of the story I knew. I did not know all the bakery stuff you just told me, which is wonderful.
I had my own business for 20-some years.
And so you really have a basis that is far greater than most agents in, retail, which means you know how to do sales.
Right.
Now, maybe at a slightly different level than what you typically do in real estate, and you know business.
Right.
From being a
that's
business owner.
I think that's the biggest key. The biggest thing is what you learn. There's nothing like owning your own business for it's college. People ask me, where'd you go to school? And I said, I went to school in Hialeah because that was my business from 1986 to 2005. And that's really, you learn so much. You learn what I think the show will continue to strive for is the fact that how outside forces affect how you operate your businesses, but also how it operates, how it affects your real estate. And one of the things we want to talk about in this show is how public policy affects how real estate is, operates in Miami-Dade County. And we're going to pick Miami-Dade County. We can always go elsewhere. But I think most people don't understand how much local government and local public policy affects what you can do with property, how you can do, and, from zoning aspects. And we've touched on it on a few other shows, and I think it's important that we in this show inject that kind of conversation outside of all the crazy stuff that we're going to talk about and the day to day. I went through the same thing this morning, knocking on people's door. The other day we went in and I was terrified that I was going to walk in on somebody naked because they told me that a tenant was inside, and we had to do an appraisal, and the person wasn't opening. Thank God it was the person that was cleaning the house. And made my life a lot easier. But I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to find? Because This is Miami, and this was down in Brickell and the Icon building, which you don't know what you're going to find there.
No, that's a fun building.
Oh yeah. So it's just I think it's important for the audience, for folks that are following us and want to watch the program, is that they understand that public policy affects you more than you think it does. And hopefully the show will actually add some of that to it, some of that value.
So, we wanted to make sure the audience heard from both of us, like where we started, because it's important to understand the basis of human beings when you're starting to interact with them, because you then understand why they do certain things. Right. When you work with clients, at first they're like, what do you think of this building? And my answer is for the ones I'm showing now, how can I possibly tell you what I think of the building? It's what you think of the building. And then once you say, I like this building, then I can layer in the expertise of what I know about the history of the building and where I think things are going from there. And so, again, knowing your client and knowing your agent is critically important.
Just went through this with somebody that wants to buy a condo over in the Gables. And we went to several buildings. And one of the things that I pointed out after said, again, very, very, very attuned to what you just said. It's your decision. I'm not going to live here. It's not my closet. It's not my bathroom. So I think it's
not your pants either.
Yeah, it's not that too. So I think you have to decide and say, okay, this is the building they want. Then you kind of go in and say, okay, some of the interesting parts is that this building's value hasn't really gone up or down in like the last 5-6 years. It's been a stable building. You look and see how much is it, a building that is used for Airbnb, which is a topic I really want to just touch on.
We're getting there. Good job. You got us right in the right direction.
We just want to touch base on it because it's something about how local policy affects you. And I think, so you kind of give them that information so at least they're prepared for it. It's the same thing that when we do stuff that if somebody wants to live on a highway, you got to point out you're going to live on a highway.
Yeah. And unless you have impact glass, you're going to hear it.
You're going to hear it, and you're going to live on a highway. And maybe someday somebody was going to drive through your fence. So I think it's important. It's important that we convey that. But at the end of the day, we talked about this on another show. We're not really the final decision. I think if we educate, if we just kind of give the information, then we'll go from there.
So we're going to essentially do a little bit on this today, and it's our teaser for the next show, which we're going to really dive deep. What is our word of the day?
Preemptive.
Preemptive.
That's our word of the day. Preemptive.
Now, you wouldn't think preemptive is a real estate word,
it's not
but
it's a bad word. Yeah, it is a word. So a lot of folks,
it's a word.
It's a word that I probably can't spell. That's for another story. Most folks don't understand that the state of Florida can preempt local government. And I'm going to give you one just simple example, and then we can go on that. We talked about affordable housing last show. Is if you look at the state of Florida preempted vacation rentals for all municipalities in, I think it was June 2011, give or take. And they said, these are the laws that we're going to establish. If you were a local municipality, take the city of Miami, Miami-Dade County. If you had policies already in place, then you would be able to use those in place and keep those in place. You couldn't strengthen them. Okay, but you could modify them. You could do just you can strengthen them on time basis. A couple of other little things. So the county in 2017 adjusted their vacation rentals, passed an ordinance, and they actually said that you had to be licensed and you had to be with the DBR and a bunch of other little
for
details.
Vacation
for vacation rentals, which affects Airbnb. So you look at that and you say, okay, is Airbnb legal in Miami-Dade County? Is it illegal in the city of Miami? And technically, it's not. It's because of the code, the way that it's said, you have to have quiet enjoyment for residential areas. There are certain areas that are, legit. One of them is Icon. Icon can do short-term rentals, and actually, I have a client of mine that has 2 in there, and we do short-term rentals where we lease it to one person. That person does it, which is a great concept because these guys are basically running hotels with no capital investment. So I got a guy in there that runs 20 units, and he's making good money. But the
there's
building,
only certain buildings.
Yeah, but the building allows it. I mean, I hear agents, you can buy in this building and you're going to be Airbnb. And it's like,
no, you're not.
No, you're not. And the condo association finds out you're going to be toast.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things. But going back to preemptive, the state of Florida tells you this is what you can do. And then you're layered in underneath it as a municipality. And most people don't understand some of how that affects us. And my point about Airbnb, we talked about affordable housing. I have no problem with Airbnb if it's used in the original model, the original idea, where you had a homeowner and you had an extra room and you were able to rent it out. I'm cool with that. But when you have and this is going to upset a lot of realtors, and I know that for a fact, is when you have an investment vehicle that is taking affordable housing off the market for Airbnb investment properties, it puts even a bigger clog into our affordability crisis that we have. And we get that all the time. We get companies that come in or tired realtors. Tired landlords that have had a property on the market. And some guy walks in and says, "Listen, I'll give you $3,500 and I'll take care of the property."
Higher than market.
Higher than market,
because they're going to resell that room on a daily or weekly basis and make even more money.
And it creates then a hotel situation within a residential community. We had one in our neighborhood, and we had a neighbor that was super diligent, and basically every time he got rented out, cops were there. Cops were there because they were making noise at 2 a.m. And you could hear them all over, screeching cars and everything. And again, it doesn't belong in that neighborhood. And the codes have that. And I know the city of Miami's, actually fighting some of these things. But it's interesting how preemptive, how affects how we do in local government. And there's a lot of other ones that we can talk about. So I hope that the show brings those elements so that folks that are out there kind of understand why some of the things that we are limited to, why we can't do certain things.
You're going to be the wealth of knowledge on this topic. So let's use something that is preemptive, but not necessarily relating to Airbnb. Give us another example of preemptive behavior.
So gun control. Local government can't do anything about gun control because the state of Florida is already preempted.
Okay.
So that's the simplest one. The easiest one, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, doesn't matter what side you're on. The state already established this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. And again, I think I always look at the state of Florida when I look at it as your condominium board, and then you have your rules and regulations. Okay. If your rules and regulations are in place, that's cool. But your condo, what's on the condo, you can't overthrow it. You can't change it unless you voted them out. But I think that's really one of the key elements. So we'll talk about different ones, and also just local policy. How zoning. How Miami-Dade was able to preempt the preemption by already having something in the code. City of Miami's done the same.
They couldn't overthrow existing
exactly,
law.
but you couldn't strengthen it. I mean, we tried we talked when I ran for commissioner, we briefly touched on the fact that can we strengthen the fact that we could just add that the homeowner would have to be on site. And if the homeowner's on site, Airbnb is cool. And this is just, we were talking just spitballing stuff. And the attorneys just basically said, if you change it, you lose it.
So we've got a couple minutes left. Let's talk a little bit more about Airbnb and the pros and cons. The pros, I believe, is it's going to bring more people into the Miami area.
Absolutely.
And that promotes tourism, right?
Absolutely.
It's just an alternate way to have a place to sleep. And often it's less expensive than going to a full service hotel. So that's a positive. Right. But the negative is that as you pointed out, in a lot of cases, it brings hotel type traffic into a residential neighborhood.
Yeah. And that is my pet peeve with the whole program. And again, I can't stress it enough. If you're a homeowner and you live on that and you're homesteaded on that property, I have no problems, because that makes perfect sense. It helps financially. People can pay. We used to call them granny flats.
Like the cottage that you needed for your family. Right. You don't need the cottage anymore. Rent that out.
Exactly. So you have a granny flat, and that is something that doesn't impact because you're on site and you're protecting and you're watching it. But I can't tell you enough that every time I've had a rental property that's a house, I immediately, and it's agents, I immediately get calls. Hey, will you sublet it? Will you allow us to sublet it? Will you let us Airbnb it? And I'm thinking to myself, no, because I'm not going to take it away from a family that's going to live in that unit.
But you have this thing called a conscience.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I know. But public policy says we can do it.
Right.
So if the public policy says, or is stressing and saying, okay, they're promising you affordable housing, but by one side they're taking it away from you, then we're not accomplishing anything.
Right.
And especially on the residential single family side. And it's killing us. It's literally killing us. It's putting more people into, multiple families inside a home. So you get that you rent a home and you got two families living in it. It's just something that it's a pet peeve of mine. What can I say? And we can talk more about it.
Well, this is a great topic.
Okay.
And we got to figure out ways to really dig in, because again, the show that we have devised, and we're still developing it, is to get people inside real estate.
Yeah.
Really let them understand below, going out and seeing homes,
the pretty stuff,
putting out the contract. We're going to get into, it's not necessarily ugly, but some of it is. And the rest of it is more mechanical about, what can we do to educate our public and hopefully get a chance to work with a couple of them.
Right? And just also to understand why some of the things we can't do certain things, that we have limitations within what we can do with our properties. And I think a lot of folks just don't understand that. They just go look at pretty houses.
Yeah.
So
Howard, how much time we got left?
What do we got?
2 minutes.
I got 2 minutes left.
We got 2 minutes. Oh, we didn't talk about the Dolphin draft.
That's right. We started the last show with that.
I was completely wrong.
I wasn't going to point it out.
Yeah, Atlanta took Pitts.
Yeah.
Cincinnati took Chase. We took Waddle, which I didn't expect. Now, I will say one thing. Our team is fast. We're going to be fast. I'm talking about football.
Thank you. Grant Miller has entered the room and already given me a jab. That's quite all right.
So I'm looking forward to the season.
So let's tie the Dolphin draft into real estate. Is it going to draw more people to Miami and want them to live here and thrive and cheer for our Dolphins, or did we make some bad moves?
No. I don't think it's going to affect real estate anyway. It's going to affect traffic on Sundays, but that's about it.
For sure.
Yeah, the Miami. If you weren't here during the Dolphins when they were winning Super Bowls, Miami gets nuts if you ever get another Super Bowl down here, like where they're winners and they're on the winning side.
Oh, I know.
It'll be insane.
We call those fair weather fans.
I know, but the fair weather fans are insane. And there's so many of them in Miami. It'll be absolutely nuts. But I think Miami will always be what it is. Everybody's going to come down for the sun and the fun and just what we have to offer.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I got down here and really got to go to the Dolphin games well after they were in their prime.
Oh, yeah. No, if you were here in the last 15 years, yeah. No.
And my father-in-law, who's since passed, he used to get season tickets for the Dolphins. So I went to a fair number of games, and I saw one win the entire time I went to the Dolphin game.
When I went to college,
maybe I should stay away from the stadium.
By the way, when I went to University of Florida, I think they didn't win either back in 1980. But I used to go to the Orange Bowl back when in the heydays of the, I saw O.J. Simpson run for 200 yards.
That's great.
I saw the Jet game. I saw the Chargers game. all these famous games. I was there for the Orange Bowl when UM won their first national title. So it's fun.
So if you want to be in Miami,
Exactly.
you can talk to me. You can talk to Hav. We are all about real estate and making your real estate dreams come true. It's normally the MiamiHal Real Estate Show, but you know what? Every other week, it's going to be, I'll even call it the Hav and Hal Show. And we're going to dig deep. Until next week, we hope you have a great one, and we'll see you then.
See you then. Have a good weekend.